Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and today we're going to be making the cutest project. Today I'm actually going to be creating a quilted blanket. No pattern needed. I'm just using things I already have in hand. I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you some tricks. I'm going to show you how you can quilt the cutest blanket on your regular sewing machine. You do not need a quilting sewing machine. This is going to be a quick and fun project. It's just one of those projects that you can just do on a Saturday or when you have some downtime and you want to relax and just take your time and work on something simple, something that you don't have to think a whole lot about, and it ends up looking so cute. So let me show you how I did it. Let's get started. All right, so my first step was to go ahead and cut out my fleece. I'm using this really soft fleece for the back, and I'm using this flannel for the front, and I cut both of them the same size. Now I didn't have as much as I thought of the Pretty Elephant fabric. So the sizing of this, it's kind of in between a receiving blanket and a cradle. So you can actually go online and look up sizes of blankets and figure out exactly what size you want to cut it. I'm making mine at a 30 by 40, and I thought that that would be a good width. It's not huge, but it's not tiny. So it's one that they can kind of take around with them everywhere, but it's not gonna be like too bulky. So I love this size. A lovey is like a 12 by 12, which is a tiny little one. Then you got a baby one, which is a 16 by 14. Cradle will be like a 30 by 14. Receiving is like a 40 by 40. And like I said, this one is only receiving, I think I said, hopefully I said it correctly. It's a 40 by 40, but this is actually a 30 by 40. So it's not quite as big as a receiving blanket, but it's close to size. And I think that this will do just fine. So when you're making a blanket, you don't have to worry unless you're actually making it the size of a crib or the size of a bed. Then you really have to, make sure that you make it the correct size. Now, once you've got both of them cut out, you need to make sure that you even them out. As you can see, sometimes some of the fabric kind of stretches out a little bit. And you want to make sure that they're all evened out so that once you come to the corners and everything, it doesn't come uneven. So what I like to do is I like to lay it out on the floor, on a table, on a mat, and kind of space it all out. Once you've got it all cut out and you've got it all nice and even, we can go ahead and set it up for quilting. Now, this is going to be a really quick little baby quilt. Like I said, I am doing just a very simple quilt on this blanket. I'm not going to do anything, over the top or anything like that because I'm just doing it on my regular sewing machine. So once it's all set up, and what I would recommend if this is your first time doing something like this, what I would recommend would be to make like a lovey size, a small size or a baby size first. And then once you're confident with that, make a bigger size. But I'm going to give you like some little tips of what I do when I'm making just a quick baby quilt like this. So now what I did is I put them both together. Then I'm going to grab some pins and I'm going to start pinning around it just to make sure that they're not going to come apart and that the sides are going to be meeting at the edges and everything like that. Like once you have your edges all together, your two pieces. Now, if one is a little bit bigger than the other, just make sure that if you cut them at the same size and they were ironed, they should meet up. So make sure that you're meeting them all up like correctly. I am not putting any batting on this because I'm using this really nice bottom layer. But if I was using flannel for both sides, I'd probably put some batting in between so it gives a little bit of a plush feel. Now, another thing is, I said this is going to be a quick and easy one. Do it with whatever you've got on hand. If they don't match up, like here, I think I cut my fleece just a little bit smaller because when I ironed my flannel down, it kind of stretched out a little bit. Don't worry about it because once I quilted, I'm going to go back and trim my edges so that they're all even, and then we're going to bind it. And I'm going to talk about the binding after, but I've got two different options for you that you can choose from. So I'm going to put this aside. And I'm gonna continue to just kind of pin around the blanket to make sure that it's all nice and, you know, flushed out, so it's not gonna wrinkle on me. All right, now the first thing, one thing that you do need for this one is we're gonna find the center. I'm gonna find the center of my blanket by folding it down the middle. And it doesn't really have to be perfect because it's not patches. You're not putting quilting patches together. You're literally just quilting the blanket. It doesn't really have to be perfect. And I'm folding it in half again. And this right here, this corner point is my half, like the half of my blanket. So I'm using a water soluble marker and I'm gonna mark that. This will come off in the wash. Okay, and here's my mark where my middle is. Now you gotta decide how you want to quilt the blanket. The easiest for me that I find quilting is just the diagonal lines. So I just do about 2-inch apart, lines about 2 inches apart, and just go straight. Obviously you can do it any kind of way you would like to. If you want it to be squiggly, you can go around, you can go in circles, start at the middle and draw your circle all the way around. But again, I'm just doing it on my sewing machine, so I want to go simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a ruler and I'm going to go from this corner of my blanket to my center point here and mark my lines. And then I'm going to go from this corner to the other center and mark my line. All right, once that center line is marked, you can go ahead and however wide you want your lines to come across. I like to do mine about 2 inches wide. You can start marking the fabric and mark it all the way to the corner from one way and then all the way to the corner on the other side. I don't mark my fabric. I'm gonna show you just how I do this because I do it the lazy way and it works out. So you could do it by marking, which is a little bit more precise, or you can just do it the way I do it. I'm gonna show you. Also, some people like to pin a whole bunch of places to make sure that's gonna be nice and smooth. Like I said, I am not that way. So as I'm going, I make sure that I kind of taper it down and I'm going outward with it as I'm sewing it out so it's nice and even. And then what I do at the end is I do end up trimming the edges to make sure that they're all nice and even. And if you want to remeasure everything and make sure that everything's good, you can do that as well. You can even quilt a piece of fabric that's a little bit bigger than your blanket, like about 1 inch bigger than your blanket, if you want it to be precise, and then trim the edges off at the end. So let's move on to quilting it on your sewing machine. I'm going to show you just how I do it. All right, so I'm gonna start at that line that I drew down the middle, and I'm just going to literally do a straight stitch all the way across. Like I said, I kind of pull the blanket out so it's all nice and even, and so all the way down, staying on that line. If you have a bigger blanket, sometimes what I like to do is the edges, I like to roll them in. So that way it's not like getting here on my way. All right, I'm gonna show you my lazy quilting method. You see the line right here I already created to start to point me in the right direction. Well, what I do is I place a ruler. This one is 2 inches wide right here. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place that right where the 2 inch, right where where I already sewed up on this side. So it's right there on that side, and here's the 2 inches, and then I'm going to place this other side right by where I'm going to stitch, and I'm placing it right next to my foot right there. Okay, and now I'm just going to make sure that I keep that ruler edge right here with what I already sewed, and then this side right here, edge right to my foot. Here's more of a close-up look on that. Here is my stitch. Here's my foot. And I'm going to be guiding it as I sew it. Now, some people might find this very hard to do and confusing and annoying, and that's not what they want to do. And that's fine if this is not the way that you want to do it. You would just draw the line. Oop, I have a piece of thread coming in from another angle. Doesn't need to be there. There's thread behind my sewing machine and it's tangling up. But anyway, so I'm just pulling this back and lining it up here at the one side, and then with my foot I'm sewing on the other side, being guided by this ruler. You know, when you're sewing, you don't really have to push the fabric, kind of does it on its own. So all you're doing is you're just guiding it. If you look on this side, you can kind of see it. There's the stitches, the two, there it is. And then on this side, you can see that there is a stitch here and here, and it's 2 inches wide. So now I'm going to do the same again for the next stitch. Now I'm guiding myself by the one I just made, and I'm going over to the, going closer. Then I'm gonna finish up all those rows all the way to the edge on one way, all the way to the edge on the other way, and then I'll turn my blanket sideways and go crossways. So let me work on this one, and then all right, we are done with our lines. Look at that, so pretty. Now you could leave it like this if you want a really quick quilt. I mean, it didn't take me very long at all. Or you can now turn it over. Here's your middle dot still there. Well, I don't know why I did that, because that's just turned over just as much as it was. And now I'm gonna grab that dot and I'm gonna go the other way. So I'm going to this one corner and mark it, and then come back over to this corner, which is lined up, and mark it. Okay, and then you could, again, you could draw the lines, and the lines make it easier. Let me draw the lines on this one. But the other way I find it quicker, just for me, because I just like to go ahead and hurry up and do it. But the lines really do sometimes are easier if you're worried about, like, you have a lot of bulk and you don't want to hold a ruler while you're doing it. Drawing the lines makes it really easy. And being that this is a smaller quilt, it really is not that much harder to draw the lines. Make sure whatever pen you're using, you test it out first, and you do make sure that it's going to come off. You can use a washable marker. Actually, those work just fine. You can use chalk, you can use, there's a lot of things that you can use out there, tools for quilting. They also have water soluble pens or heat soluble pens that you when you iron it, it comes off. And sometimes those are better for things like this if you don't want to give it a wash after you're done. But I'm fine with giving this one a little wash. Let me know, comment below and let me know what you think. Do you think it's easier to draw the lines in, or do you think it's easier to just use a ruler and to guide you as you sew? You think that was a pain in the neck to use a ruler? But anyway, the reason why I wanted to show you this today is because sometimes we think we can't do these cute little projects with our regular sewing machine. We think we need to have a quilting machine to be able to quilt, or to be able to, you know, like do something like this. And then you also think, oh, this is super difficult, but it really isn't. It really is just about sewing straight lines. And then I'm going to show you how I'm going to bind it after I'm done. Another super quick, easy step. And then you have this little cute blanket that you can give away, that you can get for your for your children, you know, just or make it for your home or for your bed, like bedding. I might find myself some cute fabric and make myself a quilt for my bed. But it's just so easy sometimes to make something like this, and it's like such cute things, and it's gonna look super cute once it's all quilted. And you can tell your friends, you can tell anyone you made this because you love them and you wanted to give them something super sweet and from the heart. And it is adorable. I just love quilting things. I think it's super cute. Another good idea would be if you have an embroider machine, if you have a friend that can embroider, or even if you have vinyl, writing the name on it, the children's name, you know, if it's a newborn, you can write the name, the weight, the date they were born. It would be super cute as well. But let's go ahead and finish quilting, and then we're gonna bind it and we'll be done with this cute blanket. And once again, I start from the middle just because I want to make sure that it's not gonna get tucked under or fully quilted. As you can see, the two sides, you can see the lines. They're like little diamonds, triangles. Anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that all my edges are even. See how right here kind of came over a little bit? I'm gonna trim that all the way around, make sure my edges are all even, measure it out, make sure it measures exactly what I wanted to measure. Then I'm gonna come back and show you my binding. All right, now I told you I had two different options. I've got regular double-sided binding, double fold binding, I'm sorry, which will go on one side, and then I'm gonna fold it over and then top stitch it on the other side. Or another way to bind it is to use some silky ribbon. Now this ribbon is not wide enough. This ribbon is only 5/8. So it's not wide enough. But if I have double this width, I would top stitch it by holding it down and top stitching it all around, and you have a silky border. I wanted to do the silky border, but like I said, I don't have any other ribbon, and this is like a weekend project. I wanted to get done with some stuff I had in hand. So since I have my double fold binding, I'm just gonna go with that. But I would recommend the silky, and I think they also sell silky double fold binding that would work with it. But really, if you had a thicker ribbon, then you could just overlap it, stitch it down, and close it. This is so thin, it would be so difficult to sew it on. What you could do is you could serge or finish all the edge of the blanket and then try it, and that might work as well, but I'm not sure. I want to start this binding though in the middle of my blanket because I will finish this off here when we meet up at the other end. So I'm going to start kind of at about an inch or so away from the edge, and I'm just going to pin this double fold binding to my blanket, right sides together, by opening it up and pinning it to the edge of the blanket. And then I'm going to sew on that first fold, because then I'm going to fold it over and top stitch from the other side. Actually, I like to top stitch. Which way do I want to top stitch? Do I want to top stitch from that side or this side? I want to top stitch from the right side. So I'm going to actually put it on the wrong side of the blanket, because I want to fold it over to the right side of the blanket. All right, so the right side of the binding to the wrong side of the blanket, and I'm going to go all the way around, clipping it on, and then I'm going to go to my machine and top stitch it. All right, as I'm sewing my binding, I'm going to stop about 1/4 inch away from the edge and back stitch, and then come back, and we're going to do that corner. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, and we're going to stop 1/4 inch away from the edge and do a back stitch. All right, so now what I do is I'm gonna grab my binding and I'm gonna fold it. See that stitch right there is gonna hold this. So you're gonna fold it over towards the outside. And that back stitch right there holds it tight. And then I'm gonna fold it back towards the blanket again. I'm gonna clip it right here. And then I'm gonna start sewing it right here at this outer line, just like I sewed earlier. And I'm gonna start here at the corner and keep going this way and go all the way around until we get to this other corner where we'll do the same exact thing. But before we get to, well, once we get to that other corner, we'll stop a 1/4 inch away from the corner again and backstitch like we did on this corner. And then we'll come back and I'll show you what this corner is gonna look like, because I know you're gonna be curious about that. I'm gonna be curious too, making sure I do it correctly. I don't quilt all the time, so quilting is a little bit, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's not my forte. All right, so I'm gonna go all the way up. And you know what? I'm doing this the wrong way. You know why? Because I'm having all the bulk of my blanket be folded under. I'm like going the other way. I should have come this way, so I would have gone that way. So maybe, you know what? Well, let's continue, because now I don't want to take it off. It's fine. Let's continue. Yeah, you see what I mean by having to have this bulk here, because I'm starting the wrong way. Oh well. I backstitched off the edge of the blanket, and then now I'm just gonna go all the way down that line, that fold right there. Now, a lot of people who quilt love and swear by a walking foot, and I think obviously that's a lot easier, but I don't have a walking foot, so I'm just doing this with the regular foot. Okay, here at the corner, once again, I am stopping a 1/4 inch away from the edge. All right, here we are back to this corner, and you'll see that when we flip this over, you have this nice corner here. This nice corner here, you see that? And then on this side, when we stitch it, now I'm gonna trim this seam allowance once I'm stitching, so it won't be as bulky. And I'll trim the seam allowance here in the corner as well, so it won't be as bulky. And some people like to close up the binding here with just a regular hand stitching. I'm going to stitch it down, but I'll come back and show you all that in a minute. But I just wanted to show you what it's going to look like. So this side will go this way, and we'll bring this side down this way, and it'll close up my corner by stitching on this side, and I'll have a nice corner here and a nice corner here. You see that? It looks so pretty. So those would make really, really pretty corners. So I'm gonna, like I said, I did over here, I did the same thing. I came to a 1/4 inch. I'm going to fold my binding out towards the corner to the outside. So it's kind of folded. My back stitch is holding it in place. And then I'm gonna fold it right over towards the other side and continue to go around. So I just realized I'm going to teach you a couple more lessons than what I thought I was actually going to teach you. First of all is adding more binding when you run out. So I'm going to join some binding strips. Second of all, the other lesson I'm going to teach you is make sure that you buy the correct binding and enough of it so that you can make it all in the same color, because this is a single fold and I thought I had enough of it because I had 2 gray ones, but it's a different kind of binding. So I'm going to move on with this other color binding and attach it on so I can show you all how to do it. But then I'll probably just fix it and take it apart and redo it later. All right, so I'm gonna open up my binding. As you can see, I left a space here. I didn't attach it yet. I'm gonna grab my new binding. I'm gonna open it all up and I place it right sides together, the new binding with the old binding that I've already been using, and kind of match them up here. And I'm gonna start here at this corner and I'm gonna sew a line from this corner all the way up to this corner over here. So obviously I'm gonna move those pins because, you know, I can't sew over that, but I just wanted to show you kind of how it went. You can draw a line however you want to, but you're gonna start at this corner and you're gonna sew all the way up to this corner. That way when you open it up, it'll be one long string. So let me go sew it up right there to join this binding. All right, so now that that's sewn, we're gonna grab, it's sewn right there, we're gonna grab our scissors and trim the excess here. Open up that binding strip. You can go ahead and give it a good steam so that the seam here is opened up. As you can see right here, it becomes a binding strip. It's continuous now, so you can keep going. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep going with that along that edge all the way to the corner. Now I have to attach the binding here as well. So I'm gonna go past that binding because I wanna be able to attach it. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna stop here and then I'm gonna come back and attach them like I did earlier, where I put them right sides together, and then I did that diagonal line where I sewed them diagonally and meet them up, and then I'll finish stitching them on. Now all I've got left to do is meet these two right here to create the binding, to finish up the binding. And then I'm going to go back over, trim all this seam allowance, bring the binding over the front and top stitch it down. So we'll go all the way around top stitching this down. But first I'm going to trim all the seam allowances and then top stitch, and then we'll be done. I kind of wish, and I do have a lot of this blue, I kind of wish I would have done it all blue instead of the gray. What do y'all think? Actually, comment below and let me know what color you think is better, the blue or the gray. I feel like the blue like stands out more, and I do have a lot more of the blue, so I could, before I top stitch it all down, change it, take the gray off and make it all the blue color. What do y'all think? Let me know. Maybe I'll top stitch a little bit and not finish it all up, and then show you. I'll top stitch like the top part where it's got the gray and the blue, and then you can tell me, comment below and let me know what you think, if I should stick with the blue or get more of the gray. All right, friends, we are sort of finished. How cute did this turn out? I love the quilting. I just think it is super cute. I think my favorite part about this project is the fact that I just sat down on a Saturday and I just worked on it on and off. Worked a little bit here, worked a little bit there, and it was just a fun thing to do. There's not a whole lot of measuring and thinking it through and having to deal with pattern pieces. So like when I have something that I want to do that's just like relaxing, this is such a great project. Obviously not finished binding yet, because I need you to comment below and let me know what you think. Do I go with the blue or do I stick with the gray? What do you think looks best? I figured I'd show you in a big picture so you could really see it and tell me what you think. I think no matter what, is going to be super adorable. So comment below. I will be checking these comments and I will come back on our next video and I'll give you a little bit sneak peek on our next video posted here next Monday of how the blanket turned out and show you which color I ended up going with. So stay tuned. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out. And I'll see you all next time.